เคครับสวัสดีครับก็วันนี้เรามีงานเปิดตัวสินค้าใหม่ของ FOCAL นะครับเป็นซีรีส์ ST นะครับก็ขอบคุณทุกคนนะครับที่มาร่วมงานกันนะครับค่อนข้างกระชั้นชิดนิดนึงเวลาจัดงานน้อยเราก็มีสตรีมมิ่งแล้วก็มีที่มาดูที่โชว์รูมที่กิมเล้งออดิโอนะครับวันนี้เราได้รับเกียรติจากคุณวินเซนต์นะครับที่เป็นเซลล์แมเนเจอร์ของทางFOCALนะครับที่จะมาอธิบายโปรดักต์ต่างๆนะครับถ้าใครสงสัยตรงไหนก็ถามมาทางสตรีมมิ่งก็ได้นะครับหรือตรงนี้ก็ยกมือถามได้นะครับก็ให้วินเซนต์รีวิว
Hi Tan. Hi everybody.
ส่งต่อให้คุณวินเซนต์ไปเลยนะครับ
Saudi cap? That's how you say it. First of all, do you all speak English, understand English, or will we need translation? Okay, so we'll do it in French today. Comment ça va? Ça va bien en forme? Yeah. No, is it okay? You understand my English? Yeah? All right. Okay. You sure? I mean, if at some point, you say, oh, sorry, I don't understand this, I mean, don't hesitate and we'll ask somebody to translate. Okay, my name is Vincent Moreuil. I am the International Sales Manager for the Pro Audio Business Unit at FOCAL. And to tell you the truth, it is my first time in Thailand. So I'm really excited, and it's a real pleasure with Kimleng and the team to be able to organize this kind of, let's say, I've put training because we're going to go a little bit behind the scene. It's not just, okay, here's a new product, blah, blah, etc. And I have some material samples to actually illustrate why we do things that way and why, like I was saying, it sounds maybe different, right? If that's okay with you. Let's get started then. So, just a quick look at the screen is here. But, I mean, we can go back and forth, but we just go quickly on who we are targeting in terms of customer, a few behind-the-scenes stories about the design. We'll stay quite a bit of time on the technologies because that's what makes really FOCAL different. I'll explain about the focus mode. I don't know if you're aware about that. It's quite a pretty neat feature that we brought on the SM9 originally, if you know the portfolio, and then we improved it over time. We'll have a quick overview of this big washing machine. That's how people call it because it's really huge. Sub 12. And if we have time, we can go deeper in the technical specification, but I probably will skip that and go to the key points, because in the key points, we try to give you guys, okay, what makes it different to have this technology plus this technology in my workflow, right? I think that's really important. Is that okay with you guys? Yeah? Okay. So, I mean, really here, when we are talking about ST6 range, you are starting to be in the top-notch technologies of the FOCAL Pro portfolio. So it's really for the most demanding people and engineers or musicians. So it's just an example, composer, DJ, music, bands, I mean, you name it. But like I said, it's made in France. It's really deep in the FOCAL DNA. What you have to understand that we've been designing and manufacturing drivers, tweeters, cabinets, you name it, for next year is going to be 45 years. So, and to be totally transparent, we are probably one of the very last company on this planet to still believe that not everything has been done on transducers, right? Some other companies think that, okay, they gave up at some point and they buy things off the shelf and try to put some so-called magical DSPs to flatten the curves. That's not our approach. We are still full analog, right? And because we are able to design and manufacture in-house, and I have the proofs here, we can achieve the performances we want to reach, right? When we design a new product, we say, okay, what do we want to improve? What sort of performances we want to achieve? And we don't start from scratch, but we have all these bricks of knowledge or know-how to blend and put the right recipe, and this is the new product. That's very important. About the design. That was really tricky for us. Because if you guys are familiar with the old, and I'm not afraid to say old, Solo 6, Twin 6, Sub 6, those products have been designed, just R&D talking, 18 years ago. And they have been on the market for over, let's say, 17 years. Think about it. We're talking about studio monitor. So when it gets to manufacturing, it gets really challenging, sourcing components and all of that. So at some point it was tricky to maintain that. And we said, okay, this is the chance to bring something better to the market. But when you have such iconic products, it's like, I'll take an example. If you think about Porsche, right? And the 911 Silhouette. When it was a 356, okay, you already have this silhouette. But when you think about a 992 of today, you recognize that it's a 911. Right. But everything is different. Performances, engine, you name it, etc. We try to apply the same philosophy to our own level, right? We are not Porsche. But it's true that if you look at the products very quickly, you're like, oh, it just looks the same. But everything is different. Everything. Okay? That's the general idea. Okay. Let's talk about technologies. And we'll start with the membrane. The membrane we use is called W. And there's no magical word behind this, just behind the scene story. W comes from, we use a composite sandwich. I'll show you afterward. Let's start like this. We use a foam, which is here, and you see the machines here, where we will heat the foam from bottom and top. Yeah? And we have a mold, which is placed here, underneath. You don't see it. This is just heating. And then you will apply it on this mold depending on the diameter, the angles of the cone that you want to manufacture. Okay? And then you will apply, depending on the performances we want to achieve, 1 or 2 layers of fiberglass. And glass in French, it's called verre, right? And because we put 2 layers of verre, of glass, we call it W. It's VV. It sounds, it's the real story. That's the real story. All right? So this membrane, as you can see, I will show it here, becomes a cone, right? I'm sorry I traveled too much, so it's a little bit damaged. And like I said, we put 1 or 2 layers of fiberglass. You can have it. Why do we do this? Is it... Sorry? Oh, it's a car. It's not a fire alarm. But while we are solving the alarm on the car, let me ask you this question, because maybe we should start with, basics. Do you know the 3 main characteristics of a raw component, even if it's a composite component, that you want to match if you want to make any transducer, whether it is a tweeter, a woofer, you name it? Do you have any ideas? If I think about, I don't know, the weight, the... no, I'm really talking about the raw material. For example, does it have to be light or heavy? Okay. Do you all agree? Does it have to be light or heavy? Correct. Absolutely correct. It has to be the lightest as possible, right? Like you said, to be able to move fast. The lightest you are, the faster you are. Okay. Second one, does it have to be rigid or floppy and Come on, give me a guess. It's very important. And every manufacturer should care about that. But we do care about it super seriously.
It should be is right because
Should be what?
I mean fluffy because it's depending on the frequency is right. It's supposed to be like responsive.
Okay.
Sensitivity is like for
Okay.
the high frequency.
Right. You all agree with this? Does it have to be rigid or floppy? So we have floppy, we have rigid. Which side are you? We have rigid and floppy. Come on, tell me. It's important for you to understand the process.
Can I change?
Okay, it has to be the stiffest as possible. The hardest you can find. Why is that? Like you said, imagine you have one kilohertz. You have to move how many times per second, right? Plus the SPL in this thing. So the acceleration, deceleration, you don't want the material to be, if I take this material which is not rigid, imagine if that moves literally by its own characteristics, it's bringing extra frequencies which are not in the signal. So what it does, it's either a type of distortion or it's coloring the sound if you talk about a woofer. So it's going to be really blurry, right? Make sense? And the third one, do you have any idea? Imagine you have a signal and it stops instantly. How the material has to behave. It's pretty much in link with what I said. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. It's damping. So the three main characteristics when you are trying to develop a new transducer, whatever it is, you must have the best performances of each of those. And you get to a good starting point. Okay, so you saw this, you saw that. Did you check the rigidity? All right. And you see in the meantime, well, it's white, it's like this. Well, basically we paint it. Otherwise it would be too Yamaha-ish, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. Just for fun. Or Hemfio-ish. Anyways, now that you know that, so with this type of material, we achieve, and we're not afraid to say excellent dynamic, right? So remember, 2 layers of fiberglass with this special foam. Yeah, let's move on. So in this new 8-inch woofer, we actually have a higher excursion. We've been able to increase by 50% the excursion, right? And the driver is much more linear. And all of that results that in the low end, you see under 100 Hertz, we've been able to gain 6 dBs, which is huge, right? So don't be surprised if when you listen to the 306, though we are not in a controlled environment, it goes really low, and there's no sub, right? The other thing is we have a, let's say, a larger inductive surface also because the voice calls is much larger, right? And the fact that the ratio between the power and the weight is better, we have something much more sensitive and much more responsive. So and I'm telling you already, because you guys are going to go and dig into the specs, all of our monitors, if you take the watts, the wattage is lower than the previous generation. So sometimes on forums you see, oh, but how can they achieve this? This is less powerful, blah, blah. This is bullshit. Because we have such a know-how to make drivers so much efficient that it actually creates other problems. Is that we have to reduce the background noise of the amps and all of that. So we are, even on the electronics, I mean, lower by minimum 10 dB compared to competition when you don't have any sound, you know, like it's like no hum, no hiss, because it's so sensitive. So it doesn't mean that it's less powerful. It's just more efficient. We need less energy, if I may say. And today, I think it's becoming something important. You know, I mean, for example, in Europe, we have to have this standby mode, regulation and all of that. But when you think about it, and we were starting to have a discussion about Dolby Atmos and all of that, the minimum setup is 12 speakers, right? I mean, 11 plus 1. So when you start to have all these monitors playing at the same time, it's a lot of energy. So when you think about it, when you have something more efficient, you're consuming less electricity. And when you know how much it is now to, you know, all the energy pricing are just like going crazy, that's something to consider also. We go that deep in the details. Okay? So that's pretty it for the woofer. On the Solo 6 and Twin 6, it's obviously it's a 6-inch woofer. Pretty much the same improvement by, you see we increased by 40% the excursion. And I will make a little focus on the TMD. I'm not really going into too deep in this, but I'll show you something afterwards you will more understand about that. And we increased by 30% the magnetic field response. But where I want to go, let me just go here. This is what is TMD. Tuned mass damper, that's what it stands for. So as you can see on the left-hand side, it's without, and on the right-hand side, it's with. So let me tell you this story. Our engineers, they did a big survey, a big study on our drivers, not only Pro, I mean hi-fi, we do car audio and all of that, but also other manufacturers' drivers. And what did they found? They found that at certain SPL level, you start to have absurd excursions on the suspension. You understand this schematic? This is the cone, this is the membrane, this is the suspension, and this is the basket, right? So what happens here? It's completely out of phase. Yeah? And it happens mainly on the mid-range frequencies, like between 1 to 3, 4K. Okay, so they said, how can we improve this? And they found the inspiration from the skyscrapers or the cruise ships. For instance, in Taipei, there is the 101 Tower, big skyscraper with a big mass. I don't know if you've seen the pictures. It's the same principle, downscaled to a suspension. So the idea here is to bring extra mass to the right radius. That's why it's called tuned, because it's going to be different depending on the diameter of your driver. And it will have either one ring or two rings, like I said, depending on the diameter. But by doing this, you cut by 50% this distortion problem. The result is mind-blowing. All the voices, everything that goes on, you know, when you're mixing, a lot of things are happening in that range. But you get so much more clarity to work, you know, on reverbs, vocals, you name it. And we thought it was a good result, so we patented this. This is a focal patent, right? So to illustrate it, yeah, this is a standard suspension, and this is a tuned bass damper suspension. Originally, on the portfolio, we introduced this on the Shape series, and then we brought it on Trio 11, and most recently, the entire ST6 range has this feature. Okay? You all understand that? Questions? No? Okay. Tell me if there is something you don't get, don't hesitate. Yeah, that's another way of showing it. This is really extreme.
This means that it's going to happen when the SPL is super loud.
Yeah, I'll show you on the We have a response curve here. We're talking about what? 90? Yeah, it's 90. Yeah. So you see the red curve is without, and the black one is, so we're talking about, yeah, this range basically. And you know, on our products, over point is always 2.5K. So the tweeter is taking the rest, right? Don't be afraid about the bumps. That's what I mean. You know, that's why it's important. Measuring is one thing, but you know, listening and it goes with it. Okay on that? TMD, remember that? That really changes the game in the mid-range. Let's talk about tweeters. All right. Maybe you noticed that our products only use inverted dome tweeters. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. There are two main reasons. When you use a positive dome tweeter, like we see here, this is, for example, something like a silk. This is very common in the industry. This is the voice call, and this is the suspension. There is a direct relationship between the height of this dome and directivity, which means, and you probably experimented it, when you use such a tweeter, your sweet spot is going to be really narrow, right? And we know how it's like in a studio. You have gear on the side, you have a compressor here, you have maybe somebody playing keys with you, I don't know. So as soon as you move, you don't get the same information, correct? Right, so that's one big problem. When you use an inverted dome, and especially when you're able to make it as flat as possible, guess what? Directivity is much wider. So your sweet spot's going to be bigger. And you will see afterwards with what we've done on the baffle, just on the baffle, this I will talk about it later on. We actually are able to give the same directivity horizontally and vertically. For instance, if you take ribbons, they have a big problem vertically. They're okay on that side. But so think about it. When you're a crew of musicians, friends, whatever, and doing your records, your mixes, you want to have the same information. And actually, I know quite a few people taking, for instance, Shape Series or to do live recordings, and they can be sure that, okay, if the artistic director is there or the conductor or you name it, and he's not sitting with it, he's just like, okay, checking things, okay, he gets the same information, right? Another point, when you want to make this move like this, we say heavier mass. Yes, because if you want to have this piston effect, don't have any other choice that the voice call is the same diameter as your dome, right? By opposition, if you are able to do an inverted dome, and if you have the know-how to center the voice call on something which is rounded, right? We have this know-how. You can reduce the diameter of your voice call. As a result, it's less material, it's lighter, so remember what we said, it's faster. Our products, especially on those, they go up to 40K. Yeah? Okay with this? We go to 40K not because we make music for dolphins, right?
Yes.
All right? No, but you understand why it's so important. Because all the extra harmonics makes the richness of the sound. That's how you recognize a good, let's say, acoustic electronic piano. But that's, yeah, that's where you get the richness of the samples and the sound, right? Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, I found now that
Sure.
invert dome is like super practical. If you have like daughters and boys at home, like,
Yeah.
they always put the
Ah.
on the
Yeah?
on the like the dome here.
And they don't do it on inverted dome, you mean?
Yes.
Well, let me tell you a story. I'll tell you a story. You see, we have grills on those tweeters. Not because of daughters and sons or kids or whatever. Because of, don't get me wrong, I was going to say dumb sound engineers. That's not true. But before, we didn't have these grills. But because we use neodymium magnets, super powerful, imagine you saved money to buy your first pair of Solo 6, right? But you're so excited, you don't read the fucking manual, where we say, put the protections on when you do your setup. And what happens? People sit down, they take their measurement, and they go, they haven't played a single note of music, and the tweeter is dead. So we say, read the fucking manual. But it doesn't happen like this. So we introduced a grill, so now it's idiot-proof. Okay. Sorry for the joke, but that's, no, we try to improve it. And we also, just talking about the grill, we improved it compared to Trio 11. That's where we introduced the grill, which was kind of a positive kind of grill. And it was, in fact, creating some turbulences between the tweeter and the grill. But it's tiny, right? It's tuned for working with the grill, no problem, even on the Solo 6 and so. But here, we've been able to improve it by the fact that it follows really the shape of the tweeter. So we avoid these kind of issues, right? But the big improvement on this new generation of monitors is that we introduce what we call infinite acoustic load at the back of the tweeter. What does that mean? In the past, our tweeters were closed at the back, right? I'm not talking about the cabinet, right? I'm really talking about the subassembly, which in a sense could create some interferences within the box of this subassembly. And this is something that has been actually used on the hi-fi side, but also on the car audio and such, which is acting like a micro anechoic chamber at the back of the tweeter for high frequencies. So it will allow the tweeter to work very freely, like almost free field in a sense. And that's the result you get. Much smoother, more neutral, more critical, because this is a tool, right? So honestly, it doesn't forgive much. So yeah. Okay on that? Right. Yeah, that's what I was mentioning about the tweeter baffle. It doesn't look, super impressive, but believe me, our engineers, they spend a lot of time engineering these shapes to be able to provide the best, dispersion without creating issues of diffraction with the cabinet also, right? So that's the level of details where we go, right? Okay, we are still using beryllium. And do you guys have any idea of what beryllium is? It's not a marketing word, right? It's not, let's call it beryllium, it's going to sell like crazy. No? You have no ideas? Come on, give me a guess. Yes, correct. It's the fourth element on the Mendeleev table, right? Yeah.
Is that used for battery?
No. No. As far as I know, for instance, space shuttles. It was used in space shuttles to protect against heat and all of that when they're getting into the atmosphere. Yeah. Right. Beryllium is correct. It's the fourth element on the table. And what is really interesting is it's the second hardest material on this planet. Remember what I said at the beginning. Second, the first one being diamond. It's super rigid, right? Like for instance, but it's also super light, okay? So to illustrate this, here I have 3 tune forks. One is pure aluminum. One is pure titanium, because some research was done also to make transducers with titanium. And guess what? The last one is pure beryllium. The only drawback with beryllium, it's super expensive. Can be between 30 to 50 times the price of gold, right? But for the entire production of focal for 1 year, we use approximately 2 kilograms. Because the raw material that we use, and you can see here, a dome, I'll show you after, it's 20 micron thickness. It's thinner than air, right? So, remember what I said, rigidity, damping, and weight, okay? So I want you to compare, like I said, the weight with the same hand, okay? Otherwise it's difficult. Then you try to bend it like this between your fingers to test the rigidity, right? And finally, we should test the damping, right? But the thing that I'm going to do, you can test damping, but also if they're like extra harmonics, if they're, you know, fundamental, etc. To be fair, we should be starting the 3 of them at the same time and wait until it decays, right? But you just make it sound, right, like this. Do you hear it from where you are, from distance?
Microphone.
Yeah, no, but I'm doing on purpose. Okay, this is aluminum. Steel. Right. I'll let you discover the rest. Okay? Play with it. Oh, while you guys are, you know, having a look at that, another behind-the-scenes story is, do you know a brand that starts with a K and finishes with a K? Mm-hmm. Yeah? What special do they have? The color of their cones, maybe? Which color is it?
Yellow.
Correct. Do you know why they're yellow? All right, let me tell you a story. We are doing studio monitors now for over 20 years, right? And before that, we would supply our own technologies to other manufacturers, not only, I mean, it could be for PAs, for hi-fi, for you name it. At that time, we were supplying to KRK our technology, Kevlar. And that's why they're yellow. But when we started the studio monitor business, we said we're going to be very selfish. We're going to keep all our technologies just for us. And okay, they're still yellow. Yep. Which one is that? Aluminum? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. But it's always of course, just like boom. So look at this. Here I have actually two row inverted domes. I'm going to try to separate them. Yeah, there you go. Ready? Just to illustrate how light it is. Yeah? It's crazy. Like I said, 20 micron. Another drawback with this material, because it's so stiff, it's difficult to work with. So to be able to form that dome, we have to heat it up very much, form it, and cool it at the same time. We have a patent process for that. But when it gets to that temperature, it can produce some dust or kind of thing. So that's why we protect our employees, right? we do care about them. So it's in a controlled environment and so on. But ambient temperature, there's no problem. Just, to make everybody comfortable and go against the things we can read somewhere. It's not radioactive, it's not,
When you make them, is
Yep.
there like a high yield? Or is there stuff that you've got a QC and gets thrown away?
No, it's honestly, it's pretty stable in the way we manufacture. It actually comes in a reel, right, of that thickness, like I said, and it actually we cut it into pieces of probably 3 by 3 centimeters. That's actually what he holds. It's difficult to see, but that's what he has here in the pliers. And then it's formed and stamped in a way, yeah. One thing is, we recycle it. So even if it's a broken tweeter, you can send it back to the distributor and ship back to the factory, and we go to a supplier and they recycle it. Okay? So I think that's very interesting to understand why we choose the materials and why it makes things, like I said, different. Now, something also very interesting, and it's true not only for Trio 6, it's true for solos, twins, and the big laminar port we have here on this guy. This can play 125 dB, right, just for your knowledge. So we increased the thickness of the entire cabinet and really improved the bracing, internal bracing of the cabinet, because you know how important it is that you have a very rigid cabinet also, right? And especially on the front baffle. So everything has been just like ruggedized in a way, right? Increase the MDF. All of that, reduces the energy dissipation. That's the key points. And you get a much better transient response, more neutral in a way. But look at the port now. We used to design laminar ports like you see on the left-hand side. And what happens is that it can create friction, right? Depending on the SPL level, and this you can hear it, right, really. But when you start to design things as if you were designing an aircraft in a way, it's more or less this, right? And introducing flares, as you can see, there's almost no friction. And it makes a huge difference, especially when you're doing, pop music, or I think we had, just for your knowledge, I think we are doing some tests with some Dua Lipa song, just on purpose, just to demonstrate this. I should ask my product manager, but I think that's the way we've done it. So think about it. You can, when you come to the product and see it, you can feel it. And it goes inside also, right? Okay? Questions, remarks for now? No? Okay, let's move on. Yeah.
The yellow cone.
Yeah.
Yellow cone.
Sorry, say it again.
Yellow cone.
Yes.
Could you actually explain
I don't know where it is. It is here.
what is?
What was the story?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just mentioning that a brand that starts with a K and finishes with a K started to be yellow because we supplied the technology more than 20 years ago. And actually on old models, you can actually disassemble them and you will see they even have inverted dome. And it's either FOCAL or JM Lab, which was the former name of FOCAL. Yeah?
No, this one in current model?
No.
Okay.
We are very selfish. We don't supply our technologies to anybody else nowadays. Yeah. And for instance, even because we're kind of fed up with being copied, we were manufacturing products in China at some point. Even the Alpha Evos slate fiber cone, right, is made in France in our factory. And then we ship it over and they assemble the product, but yeah. There's a huge know-how, believe me. You don't realize, but I'm just showing, you know, cones like this, but when it comes to glue or suspension, the amount of glue and the way you actually apply it on the cone or on the basket and all of that is super important. Because if you put too much, the weight is different, right?
And if it's uneven.
Exactly. It's not gonna, you know, you might have resonances and stuff like this. And believe it or not, there's a lot of manual operation still. And for instance, every new employee at FOCAL, whether it is R&D guy, sales guy, whoever, has to go through production for at least 2 or 3 days. I did 1 week. My boss at the time said, "You're going to do 1 week." No, so you understand the value. You understand how difficult it is and the skills. And some of the woofers, we can kind of optimize it with some machines, but there's nothing better than a human being. And for instance, when you're at the W sandwich area where people are making the cones, imagine when they do like a 13-inch or even bigger 18-inch. Believe me, the guys, they have big muscles because they have to wrap, you know, the fiberglass and all of that. It's, there's a lot of human part of in our products.
Can you call it handcraft?
Absolutely. That's the way we call it. Handcrafted in France. Yeah, correct. All right, let's talk about focus mode. So focus mode that I introduced earlier, and I'll start with Solo 6. It's a new type of focus mode. Basically what it is, it's bringing 2 monitors into one single piece of equipment. You all understand the purpose of having maybe several monitors or several type of monitors to understand how it translates, how it's going to sound, let's say, on a stupid speaker of a smartphone like people do nowadays, or you know, on the radio, on a TV set, car, and so on. So here what we wanted to reproduce and allow you guys to save time and money is that when you have several pairs of monitors and several technologies in a way, your sweet spot is going to be different, right? Just by the maths, right? The angle is different, so you have to move, right, forward or backwards. You have to remember that, okay, if I'm hearing this on those, it means that. So you have to think about it. Here, what we wanted to do is to remove all these problems. So you have one piece of a pair of monitor, right? And by just bringing a foot switch to your sweet spot, here you will bypass the tweeter. So instead of working 2 ways between 40 to 40K, you will only, so this is bypassed, and this guy will work from 100 Hertz to 10K. Like if you had a mix cube built in,
Yeah.
right? No movement.
Same for
See what I mean? But you get this kind of boxy sound. Okay? So that's the way it works on the Solo 6. On the Twin 6, it's the same principle, but actually the 2 woofers will work at the same time, right? But bringing the same frequency response. Bypass the tweeter and get into this range. Correct? Now if we look at the new Trio 6, this is actually 3 monitors in one. Because the first initial focus mode that we introduced on the market was on the SM9. And the engineers loved it. Honestly, this is the feedback we got. But they were kind of tired to go to the monitors.
Yep, me.
Press the switches, Go back. Okay, right, okay. Which we improved initially on 306B, first generation of 306, linking the two monitors, bringing a foot switch. No need to move. All right. We continued that way on 3011, right? And we've improved it on 306, which is the all-in-one, if I may say. So you have 3 ways, 2 ways, 1 way. Okay? And depending on the settings that you do, you can switch from either 3 ways to 2 ways or from directly 3 to 1. I mean, you can do whatever you want, okay? With a dual, let's say, bus pedal or something like this, okay? So remember, sweet spot, right? Same distance. You don't have. You take your decision. Okay, this is translating correctly. Boom, done. Correct? Okay. All right. A quick overview of the beast, sub 12. On the wader, it's about just below 60 kilograms. But you have handles. You need 2 people. Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. You want to try? Like I said, this is really key in the portfolio, especially when it comes today to have a Dolby Atmos rig, right? When there's a lot of things going on in the LFE channel. And still it's a very versatile, and all of our subs, just to mention it, have these very neat features of being able to adjust the phase, the polarity, and all of that. So when it comes to set up a 2.1, for example, or even an Atmos rig, you always want to, okay, you can measure, but you can follow where you have the highest cancellation, right? And you play with the phase and then flip the polarity and you're done. It's way easier. Simple things, but to help you guys. So like I said, it's a 13-inch, 600 watt RMS, 1000 peak, 125 dB. You just have to listen to it. I mean, it's not much to say. It's pretty much the same technologies applied to this category. I won't go deep in the technical features, like I said, because it's pretty much the same on all of them, but just to mention, you can disable the auto standby mode if you want, okay? Yeah, but think about it when it comes to Dolby Atmos, when you have 4 or 6 speakers on top. Do you want to leave it on? Do you want to switch it off? It's your decision, right? Some people, well, it's up to you. One thing, you have a high-pass filter now, always interesting LMF to avoid reflections on your console or your desk, and mounting points. So it's Atmos ready, right? And people keep on asking me, yeah, but you don't have the brackets, you don't have the... No. It's compatible with any standard. Go to K&M, go to isoacoustic, go to whoever you want, right? It will fit, no problem. Sub 12, yeah, like I said, polarity switch, phase, level, high pass. Yeah, you can bypass also. It's combined. For example, if you have a focus mode on trios, okay, you just link your sub and it will act the same, right? One switch. And now, well, same for the trios, except to one point. Where is it? No, it's the same. It's the same. I was going to say something wrong. Okay. Okay, this I go quick. This also. What I want to go is here. So made in France, like you understood, it's the top-notch, drivers, transducer technologies that we believe is state-of-the-art today. You have, like we said, 2 monitors in one, but even more with the Trio 6. Yeah, same thing. Just go quick on this. It's not that I want to show you. Yeah, we can have a little look at that. We are here comparing the old generation of SM6 series to ST6. For instance, what was available on SM6 series and what is now available in terms of features and what is the benefit, right? It's like a sum up of it. So for instance, when I was saying that we improved the MDF panel thickness from 18 to 21, it improved the frequency response because it's much more bulky and you get a much more neutral response. When it comes to same thing, the voice call, it's 20 millimeter high compared to 16. Well, the result is again the frequency response. Here the control for all the parameters that I said, but where I really want to go is this. It's that. Okay. Right. So if you guys, or I don't know, mixing engineers, I don't know what the profiles of you guys and people online, but let's take some examples. We have several here. When it comes to, let's say, the first line, and something that I mentioned, I think, just at the very beginning, all of the monitors and the entire portfolio is pure analog, right? And the less we have in between, the better it is, we believe, as of to now, okay? I think we were starting a discussion just for the story. Always remember that, when you buy expensive microphones, preamps, you name it, compressors, reverbs, that's a lot of money, that's a lot of gear, right? But always the last part of this chain between your ears and all this gear is the monitoring system, right? Super important. So, yeah, it should be with the acoustic of the room. It goes together. Pure analog plus very light drivers gives you an optimal dynamic, especially in the mid-range. So when it comes to really work on the, the tail, the decay of reverbs, that helps you, right, to take the right decision, not being a mess of something like completely wet and drawn into the reverbs, This is also very interesting. Having barium tweeter with the AIL plus the W membrane has a really respect in terms of transient. So when you are, working with your compressor, you really hear it working because sometimes you're like, don't hear anything. No, it's true. I'm sure you've experimented that. And so on. This is really interesting. Remember what I said, inverted dome, dispersion, and so on. So better sweet spot, but think about immersive audio. You are familiar a little bit with Atmos or not?
Yes.
Yeah? So you know that it's not a channel-based format. It's a audio object that you place in space, right? So to really give a good experience, well, not experience, but just workflow, you don't want to have this impression of having an object jumping from one speaker to another, which happens, honestly. If you hear some systems, you feel like the object, because you know the track is going like, should go like this, but you feel like it's going, yeah, true. So it makes a big difference too. And also the fact that, like I said at the beginning, the ratio and the efficiency of the drivers is so high, you don't have to crank it up. Some speakers, if you don't push them, they have no low end. or the contrary sometimes. Here, low level, you have all the information. And I think you were telling me working 10 hours a day, not fatiguing, which is good, very good feedback. All right? And merci. Thank you for listening. Do you guys have questions, remarks? Don't hesitate.
About focus mode. In
Yes.
How to change from one way, two way, and three way.
Okay. Let me go back to this. I went a little bit quickly on that. There's a switch at the back. Oh. Here it is. Okay. So depending on how you will, exactly, and also if you use, for example, TRS cable, then you can have double pedal, right? Yeah. Yeah. Or you just want to go 1, 2, and you have just one pedal, and then it goes from 1 to, full range to 2 ways. Yeah, it's really, you can do any configuration you want. It's very simple. Very, very simple. There you go. You see? Depending on the way you set it up. From focus 1 to focus 2 if you're in that position, etc. It's like if you were rotating menu. See what I mean? It's kind of, that's the way it works. Yeah. And you have the indication here, the different color of the LED. Something that I didn't mention here, but the LED will change of color, right? Other question? Yep.
Software and input in a LFE and left and right.
Yep.
Just when using the LFE, can is the input same time?
And there's an output also. Oops. There you go.
When using the LFE mode,
Mm-hmm.
only LFE.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And for instance, if you need more, like we do sometimes in big setup,
Yeah.
take the output, put it in the next one,
Okay.
and so on. We did some setup with clusters of 4 sub-12,
If sometimes
2 towers. It's insane.
If sometimes using the left and right
Yeah.
for the expand in the monitor, you can switch mode. Is not uses the LFE.
Oh, between you mean 2.1
Yes.
or just LFE?
Yeah.
That's a good question. This I don't know. I'm totally transparent. I will find out and I will provide the answer. Because I'm not sure if we can, if it's all at the same time,
Oh no.
or I don't remember, to be honest.
Sometimes it's in the studio uses a sub for the
2.1.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you can do
that's
that.
what-
Yeah. Sure.
sometimes in mixing at mode
At most.
uses LFE.
Yeah.
Can
But you see,
this-
if you want to do 2.1, you use those inputs
Yeah.
and outputs. Okay?
แสดงว่าต้อง no switch between them but what
No, you can only bypass. But what I was questioning myself is both inputs are active or not.
Okay.
This I don't remember, to be honest. But I will find out.
Thank you.
But usually on a Dolby Atmos setup, we only use LFE channel. Yeah. And the rest is more or less full range, or you do some bass management either on your system, on your DAW or whatever, Danman or whatever you use. Yeah. Yeah. More questions?
About the twins, is it
Sure.
Is it a variable for the vertical? I saw like in the picture the twins can be verticals, right?
Whether what?
Verticals,
Oh, vertical. Yes, yes, you can play them vertical.
so you don't have to like adjust anything, right?
No.
About the phone.
No, and correct.
Sorry.
You remind me something, is that these guys can play vertically or horizontally. You just unscrew those four screws, rotate the plates, screw it, and you're done. And depending on the configuration of your setup, you might want to put the tweeters inside or outside. It really depends on your room, how it sounds in your room. And that's why we give, in the past we were recommending to always put the tweeters inside, right? It's probably where we recommend to start with. And if it's not like, you know, precise enough or etc., you can try to, you know, rotate it. I even saw some quite big studios, one in Colorado using a Dolby Atmos rig with 3.011s, with the tweeter, I mean playing it vertically and the tweeter, yeah, like backwards, but upside down. Because in that room, that was the best configuration. Fair enough. But yeah, you can just flip it on the side, and that's it. We would recommend to try it that way, with the tweeter inside also, you know, for time alignment. But sometimes with reflections, it's better to have it outside. Yep. Other questions? Sure.
Can you have a demonstration for set up subwoofer with phase change?
Like here,
Yeah.
being not in a control environment, it might not be the best place to do it. But honestly, it's, I mean, it's not very difficult. Yeah, really. Any questions, remarks at the back? No? I don't know if we have questions. I don't know if we had questions online. Sure.
This model, when used is a focus mode,
Yes.
two woofer,
Yes. It bypasses the tweeter,
only with one is to do it.
and the two woofers will work at the same time. Because something that I didn't mention, for instance, this, and yeah, let's go back to some general points. Being pure analog, we also have 1 amp for each driver. Okay? So, for instance, here we have 3 amps, 2 amps, 3 amps. And we call it 2.5 ways. It's not a 3-way, because they kind of overlap the frequency response. It's like if you had, it's like if you had, let's say, the equivalent emissive area of a 12-inch, 10-inch maybe, without the drawbacks of a 10-inch in the mid-range, right? Because you know the bigger you're going to be, the hardest it is to reproduce high frequencies or mid-ranges for such a big woofer. So that's kind of a trick that, you know, over years manufacturers found to have a wider extension, but without drawbacks in this mid-range area. Yeah.
Why this model don't have the TRS input?
Pardon?
Why this model doesn't have TRS input?
None of them. No. All of them have only one input, and it's XLR. On the lower range, on the Alpha Evos, we actually have 3 inputs, TRS, RCA, XLR, which can play it all at the same time with a neutral leveling system inside. right? So it's pretty convenient if you have whatever source you want to plug in without going into your system and whatever. Yeah, we thought it was interesting for home studios to have that feature. And on the Shape series, we have two inputs, XLR, RCA. Yep. And something that we didn't show here, and we didn't really talk about the other products, but if you have questions on the other products, we can for sure talk about this. There's also Sub 1, which is another type of sub that we have, which goes along with Alpha Evo range and Shape series. Yep. Is that it? Shall we play some music? And of course, we're going to have one sweet spot, but you guys can come along and, yeah.
There are other features.
There were questions?
I didn't work on the other station. Yeah. All stations are working.
Okay, so true. You can actually go to the Alpha Evo station. There is the twins here also. Yeah. And the shapes on the other desk here. So it's pretty impressive to have the entire portfolio all at once at the same time. So yeah, thank you for coming. Let's have some listening experience now, and thank you for Kimleng to organize the event. And it was a real pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
ลองฟังได้เลยนะครับใครอยากฟังเพลงยังไงก็มีสเตชันต่อมา